Hi, I'm Karin Hurd, and we're here with our next edition of Asking for a Friend. This one is one that I've been hearing so much recently. People are used to working from home. They're used to leading remote teams. They've been at this for a while now. And this is the perfect question. I get it. I get the basics, but how do I really become a rock star leader in this remote environment? And so I thought the perfect person to ask about this is my friend, Kevin Eikenberry, because he has been at this for so long. And he literally wrote a book on this and is working on the next book. So Kevin, can you show your book? Yeah, The Long Distance Leader, which is so full of practical tips and techniques for leading remote teams. So Kevin, how would you answer this question?
That was pretty cheesy showing my book. How would I answer this question? Here's the thing. Number one, leadership first, location second. So you already know a lot about leading. And so, yeah, we're getting all these new tips and everyone's telling us all the stuff we should do. And we should take that advice. But the reality is you know how to lead already. And you need to don't throw everything out the window because you can't see your people. That's the first thing. Now, there are basics that we've already heard 1,206 times. I've heard some of the basics that people are disagreeing about, but I want to give you to your point, Karin, a couple of more specific things that leaders can be doing, especially right now. And the first thing that I would say right now is this isn't just about going remote, working remotely. This is right now also about people dealing with all of the other stuff. Right. You got people who are living alone, and that's a problem for them. And you got people that can't get to their aging family members, and that's a problem for them. And you got people who are what I call pets, parents, employees, teachers, and spouses. And that is different for them. And the reality is that work has to fit into all that. So we, number one, have to help people deal with all that, which means we have to let them talk about it and we have to figure out where they're at about it. We've got to deal with our folks differently based on where they are. So that would be true in any crisis, any time of rapid change. If you were leading remotely during a merger or an acquisition, the context would be different. The situation, however, Karin, would be the same. I would say that the first thing that we need to do to be a rock star remote leader, I love that, by the way, is that we have to be even clearer about expectations. All leaders that are highly effective are good at setting expectations. And even if you're good at that when everyone was in the office, your expectations were mostly about what do we need to do, the what expectations. But now we need the how expectations. How are we going to do it? How do I want us to interact? How will we be communicating? What tools are we going to use when and why? How often are we going to interact? And you may not have it all figured out yet, even though you've been at it a couple of weeks. The honeymoon is kind of over now. And so you've been at it a little while. You're trying to figure that out, but your folks can't read your mind. And so engage them in an ongoing conversation about what the expectations are and how we can help them be successful with them. So that's the expectation piece. Second is that piece of recognize that the world is about more than just their work. Listen, moving to work remotely is a big enough issue in and of itself. But to do it, overnight and have all this other stuff around us makes it even harder. We've got to be flexible. We've got to be checking in with our folks to see where they're at and how they're doing. How you're feeling isn't necessarily how they're feeling. And so don't assume that. And so do those things for sure. The next thing I would say, Karin, and I'm going to shut up and see if you've got a follow-up question for me, but the next thing I would say is you've got to be communicating more than you were before and more than you think you need to. I'll stop there and see what else.
I know, I agree. I always say you've got to be communicating 5 times, 5 different ways. And when you're remote, it's even more than that. And reinforcing, if it's important, you need to assume they didn't hear it the first time. Absolutely.
Because they didn't. Repetition without being repetitious is the way I think about it. Oh. And so it's about the ways we say the message, but it's also about the communication media that we use. Don't just keep sending emails. And by the way, I recorded a video that will probably be out by the time this is live, where I did a video a few weeks ago that said, make your webcam your friend. I just recorded one that says, can you overuse your webcam? And the answer is yes, you can. It's a tool like any other tool. And so we should use it for the right times, for the right situations. And most people aren't using it enough. And I'm really not too worried that most people are going to overuse it, but some will. And so use the right tools at the right times to get the messages across and continue to reinforce those most important messages. Go ahead.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I have heard in the last couple of days, people have called me at the end of the day and they said, I'm Zoom fatigued. It's just because, and I think it's because you have to look at yourself too.
Well, you don't have to. You can choose to only look at me right now, Karin. It's possible, but it's unlikely that that's what we'll do.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have just one maybe tip for like advanced communication? What's your favorite way to engage people remotely from a communication perspective?
Well, first of all, don't just think about it individually, but think about it as a team. You talked about Zoom or whatever platform that you're using. If it's location first, if it's leadership first and location second, it's also work first and location second, which means there are things that we've done in the office that we can do now. You can still have a cup of coffee with a colleague on the phone, on the webcam. You can still have, my team, we had lunch together one day last week. The rules were no work, bring your meal. And I got people across the country, so we had breakfast people and lunch people, and we all had our cams on, and we visited, and I facilitated a little bit. We did some fun things, but there was zero work, and it felt to everybody like we were right together. So do the things that you did before, just nuance them. So we've got to think about the nuances that change things. Don't forget everything you already know. Think about how you adjust those things to the new world that we're in today.
Oh, I love it, Kevin. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending some time with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.